even in Armenia. Some of them spoke Armenian fluently. Over 200,000 Azeris had lived in Armenia, working mostly in agriculture. Other large Azeri populations lived in Georgia, Iran, and Nakhichevan. Nakhichevan had been part of Stalin's arbitrary divisions of the Caucasus. Its ethnic Armenian population had been slowly driven out after Azerbaijan had been given control.
The history of Nakhichevan, which borders Armenia, Turkey, and Iran, is an example of what could happen. Nakhichevan used to have a population, in 1920, the population of Nakhichevan was approximately 40% Armenian. Today it's zero. And it's zero today because that 40% Armenian population was gradually, slowly squeezed out by the policies of the Soviet Azerbaijani government.
Many believe that Gharapagh had been on its way to becoming another Nakhichevan. This was one of the reasons why the Armenians of Gharapagh had voted for independence from Azerbaijan.
This was a liberation struggle. This was territory that historically and rightfully belonged to them. They were willing to die for the motherland. I think in part that's what made them so good militarily. They had a real reason to sacrifice their lives for their land.
Այս պատերազմը ընդհանուր հայազգի պատերազմ, բայց ընդհանուրը չէ որ պայքարում այս պատերազմում, այլ կեսը այնտեղ սեղանիկների հետ, կեսը արտասահմանում, կեսը Ռուսաստաներում, կեսը ստեղ սենց վայրենի կյանք։
Armine was the only qualified field surgeon for miles and was in charge of the Yernik Field Hospital at Ardatap. As a qualified surgeon, she could get a job anywhere in the former Soviet Union, but she had chosen to stay.
Transport, I think, in Vertaloti.
Այսինքն մինչև եղանակ չվասվի, մինչև վերտալոտ չկարողանա գալ, ոչ մեկին տեղափոխել չի կարող։
Քանի օր է Vertaloti չեկավ։
20-ից ավել։
Դե 20 օրից սպասում եք։ Եթե այստեղ վիրավոր ունենաք, ինչ կլինի։
Դե պետք է պահին գնի։
She had met her late husband during the war. Soon after they had been married, his helicopter had been shot down while bringing in emergency relief. The wreckage still lay where it had fallen, on the face of a mountain nearby.
Ani դարի առաջ էր ալի։
Ապրիլի 17։
Քանի դարի ամուսնացած էիք այն անեն։
Մի քանի ամիս։ 3 ամիս։
3 ամիս ամուսնացած էիք։ Եվ իր կորձը ինչ է, ինչ կաներ ինքը, բժիշկ էր ինքնը, ուրեմն դուք իրար համալսարան ծանոթացաք։
Մենք ուսից ենք իրար։
We want to establish normal relations with all of our neighbors, with Turkey, without any political preconditions. But after, Turkish government was very partial as far as the Karabakh conflict was concerned, and even when it was a mediator in the CSC group, it stated that they unilaterally support the ethnic brothers in Azerbaijan. We understand that, but how can one act as a mediator if it supports one of the sides?
We have only one condition, that Armenian troops should go out from the country, and then to open all these communications and probably to trade as usual, but in conditions where country under occupation, we cannot consider that we will trade as usual.
For Azerbaijan, Karabakh is an issue of national pride, and that's understandable. No country likes to give up a piece of territory. But in this case, Azerbaijan lost the territory in a war that Azerbaijan started.
If you just sort of step back and think about the context, one can have a bit of empathy for why they felt that their territory was being forcibly taken away from them.
Azerbaijan does not need Nagorno-Karabakh. Azerbaijan is the biggest country in Transcaucasia. It is fabulously rich in oil. It was a potentially wealthy country. They even have caviar in the Caspian Sea. So Azerbaijan simply does not need Karabakh for its prosperity or for its existence.
By the time Armenia and Azerbaijan agreed on a ceasefire, both economies and populations had suffered. There were at least 35,000 war casualties. With their lands mostly restored, and with 10% of Azeri territory in addition, the Armenians of Karabakh were in a better position. The region of Shahumian, however, still remained in Azeri hands, and almost every family was mourning at least one war-related death.
Armenia is living at the very edge. Karabakh is necessary. A symbiotic relationship between Armenia and Karabakh, especially a symbiotic economic relationship, is essential for Armenia's survival. Without Karabakh, Armenia is in danger of disappearing as an independent country.
As Armenia maneuvers between powerful neighbors and is rocked by political upheaval, it remains locked in a blockade. Its economy is almost at the point of collapse. Competing for Azerbaijani oil revenues, surrounding powers jockey for influence and control over the region. And the fate of the refugees of Shahumian, like so many other things, hangs in the balance. For the time being, they can only hope of one day returning to the dark forests in the mountains.
Ինչ կուզեի աբակային։ Հասկանում ես ինչ եմ ուզում ասել։
Ձերքերս ու հայրենիք։